Thank you, Acting Speaker. It gives me no pleasure that on this side of the House that we are very, very disappointed with the Minister and his lack of leadership in his handling of the local government portfolio. And no worse example can I find of his mishandling of this portfolio than that of his handling of the town of Cambridge. He has been incredibly heavy-handed in embarking on a course of action to suspend the Mayor and councillors from the town of Cambridge without properly considering all of the facts and without affording procedural fairness and without identifying the opportunity to himself improve his own department and to get across his brief with regards to what's going on in the town of Cambridge. And Minister, because clearly you haven't been reading what you've been receiving from the town of Cambridge, I'll give you an overview. In October 2015, Mayor Kerry Shannon was elected. She was elected off the back of concerns and public backlash over previous council handling of proposed changes to local planning. The Mayor then set about to make the town of Cambridge more open and transparent, particularly in relation to management and decision-making and with regards to council administration and procedures. She was having a really tough time of doing that, and it wasn't until October 2017, when a number of councillors were changed out at that council election, that she had the numbers to then be able to conduct her own independent inquiry or investigation into her own town of Cambridge. So the Mayor and the councillors set about to conduct an independent, so they got outside lawyers in, to investigate themselves, their own council. Now, so that occurred in February 2018. Then in April 2018, the state Labor government, under your ministerial leadership of your department, authorised an authorised inquiry into the town of Cambridge. An inquiry that has been going for 2 years and 2 months and is still going, and an inquiry which is going at the same time that you've recently decided to try and suspend that council. And can I just remind you, Minister, that on the 16th of April, the town of Cambridge, with respect to your handling of that authorised inquiry, made a complaint to the Ombudsman, and then, lo and behold, on the 26th of May, you then issued your show cause notice. It appears to me reactive, aggressive handling of this council, and it's unnecessary and unsatisfactory. Now, you did all this while the authorised inquiry was still going, and you did it against a council, a mayor and council, who at the last elections in 2019 were elected unopposed. Now, I'd ask you to go and find which council, mayor and councillors, all have ever been elected unopposed by their local constituency. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find them. And now you find yourself in a situation where you've got a Supreme Court injunction put on you by the town of Cambridge against you trying to suspend them. Now, the ratepayers were looking for you to support the Mayor and Council's approach to improving governance and transparency in their council. The ratepayers are very happy with the effort that the council is trying to do in this regard. The ratepayers have been very happy with the fact that their council has frozen rates for the last 4 years during tough economic times. The ratepayers are very appreciative of the fact that underground power has progressed extremely well under the leadership of the council. Efforts to be innovative in redirecting water to the lakes at Perry Lakes is underway. Efforts to help rejuvenate local sporting clubs and groups and the facilities has been ongoing. Improvements to local amenity and the fact that they've been working hard to properly plan for the complex task of urban infill, whilst they remain on track to achieve all of your state government targets. So with all of this success, you would think that you would lean in and offer support to the town of Cambridge and its councillors and its mayor, but no, you did not. So let's have a look at some of the details of what you have done, and I'll take you back to the February 2018 independent review called by the council itself into itself, the town of Cambridge, so that they could identify what problems existed to try and go about fixing them. Now, what they did was they employed a group, some lawyers called Hall and Wilcox, to carry out this internal inquiry themselves. This is what was found, and this is what I've been advised. A failure to comply with the town planning scheme, such that at least 800 houses were built contrary to the scheme, failure to have a number of delegations in place, including under the Dog Act and the Bushfires Act, failure to have statutory delegations in place, including a delegation to allow payment from the municipal fund under the Local Government Financial Management Regulations of 1996. This had never been in place and was one of significant findings by the Office of the Auditor-General that resulted in the town receiving a qualified audit for the period ending June 18. And in 2018, the town was found to have retained 1,600 bonds totalling $2.1 million and also earned interest on 5,000 bond monies deposited on trust. And this had been the subject of a previous internal audit report, Bonds and Deposits Process, in 2009, which noted a breach of section 6.9, para 3 of the Local Government Act. Now, with all of that having occurred, the senior staff at the time ignored the audit report and did not implement the recommendation to repay the bonds and interest to ratepayers. So that's what the town's own internal inquiry found of its own administration. It went on to appoint the acting CEO get the acting CEO to audit governance failures. So it asked its own acting CEO to look into governance failures at the town of Cambridge. This is done not by you, Minister, not by your department, but by the council itself. And it found in August 2018, it found a failure to enforce the scheme requirements, resulting in hundreds of homes being approved invalidly with incorrect setbacks. Found application of invalid policy in issuing said approvals in direct conflict with the scheme requirements. It also, with regards to this, found staff exceeded delegated authority, so approvals were invalid. It found a failure to maintain a proper and current register of delegations as required under the legislation. Found a failure to conduct an annual review of delegations in 2017 as required under legislation. A failure to have appropriate financial delegations in place for procurement to require that employees with financial delegations submit annual returns in accordance with the Local Government Act. And I found a lack of suitable delegations under all relevant acts and/or incorrect application of delegations. And it found officers taking action using delegated powers they did not have. It found multiple breaches of section 5.38 of the Local Government Act, as the town had not carried out the required employee annual performance reviews for its relevant employees. For example, the Director of Infrastructure had 3 reviews in 20 years, Director of Community 3 reviews in 18 years, Director of Corporate and Strategic 2 reviews in 11 years, and Director of Projects 3 reviews in 7 years. It also found breaches of section 3.16 of the Local Government Act for failure to review local laws, being Town of Cambridge Standing Orders and by Law 43. It also found failure to comply with section 45 of the Heritage Act of WA 1990 by failing to update the municipal heritage inventory every 4 years, with no review has occurred in 21 years since adoption in 1997. Found a failure to review local planning policies to ensure consistency with legislative changes, a failure to conduct a full town planning scheme review for 20 years, a failure to consolidate the scheme and amend the delegations following gazettal of town planning regulations in October 2015. Now, the town advised the department that the acting CEO was now progressing with a range of governance improvements, and that would have been given to you, Minister, because you are the Minister overseeing the department. So the town's conducted its own inquiry into itself and has found all of these failures, which, may I add, is why the Mayor was voted in the first place, to tidy it up. So they then report to you that they're conducting a range of governance improvements, including an update of the local laws, that they were undertaking performance appraisals of all employees, that they had undertaken an independent audit of the delegations and reissued new delegations and authorisations where appropriate, and annual returns for those employees with financial delegations as part of the procurement function, and that they were progressing their heritage review and local plan scheme. Now, you would think, Minister, with all of that, that you would get on the phone, ring up the Mayor and Council and say, thank you. Thank you for doing my job. Thank you for actually looking into the governance of your town and for actually identifying all of these problems and doing something about it. Thank you. Was there a thank you, Minister? You know there was not. You know you ignored them. In fact, I think you received information, who knows from who was unhappy that this council was looking into itself to improve, and you decided to do something different. So instead of congratulating them, you chose to condemn them by conducting this authorised review. And not only did you set about to conduct an authorised review, but you set about to conduct this authorised review in such a manner that it proved to be unfair, or is proving to be unfair, and by that it's demonstrating a lack of procedural fairness in the process. Now let's remember, Minister, the Mayor and Council identified, from what I can see, over 20 areas of concern or failure in their own council which they set about to fix. And instead of supporting the town of Cambridge, instead you started this authorised inquiry. Now, let's have a look at the conduct of this inquiry, which has been going for 2 years and tomorrow 2 months and ongoing. And let's look at some of the specifics with regards to this. First of all, there is a lack of specifics in what you're inquiring into. And the case that you've put to them for this authorised inquiry lacks procedural fairness. It has procedural flaws. For example, on the 18th of April, you had the Director or Deputy Director General approve the authorised inquiry into the town of Cambridge. Now, the notice of inquiry did not provide specific reasons for what, if any, complaint was the basis of the inquiry. It did not offer specific concerns or allegations to be investigated. And then subsequently, sometime down the track, almost 2 years later, the Director General of the department, again you would have been well across this, or you should have been, advised that he authorised an additional 5 officers of the department to take action to inquire into and report on the town of Cambridge. Now, what became confusing for the town was they then asked, we're told you've got 5 new inquiries on this. Is this a separate inquiry, they asked? Or is this 5 more people inquiring into the already existing inquiry? They didn't get a response, Minister. So they wrote to you or to your department asking for a response and never got one. Procedurally, it is unclear as to whether there are it's unclear whether there are 2 authorised inquiries on foot, or whether the authorised inquiry of 18 April 18 has been withdrawn and a new inquiry called on 3 December 19, or whether new authorised officers have been appointed to the original inquiry. And as I said, no clarification has been provided by your department to them. Now, this lack of specific concern in either notice of inquiry is contrary to procedural fairness, which requires that you advise of the case to be met and any negative or prejudicial information relating to a person that is to be used. Now, note, not has been used, but it is to be used when you do this in the decision-making process. Now, to this day, the council does not know why, I should say, the inquiry has been called into it. It's been asking ever since. So it's very open, it's very open-ended, it's very broad. They've been conducting their own internal investigation. They found all of those failures. They're trying to fix them up. And instead of leaning in and saying, look, we're not going to do an authorised inquiry into you, why don't you give us, Town of Cambridge, what you found? And then we'll help you fix that up. And then you could have sent people in